I tend to enjoy films about the Amish. I've seen quite a few of them. Whenever I come across a film that I haven't seen, I will always watch it. So I was looking forward to watching Amish Abduction. It actually sounded really interesting, and unfortunately, it is terrible. And not necessarily because of inaccuracies. That's not to say it's 100% accurate to Amish life. Not that I'm an expert by any means, but I know a lot of the time with Amish-based films, the problems are usually, if there are problems, it's usually with inaccuracies. But for me, that's not the big issue here. This was released in 2019. It's directed by Liebert. It's written by Eric Weinstock. And we have a cast including Sara as Annie. We have Steve Byers as Jacob and Liam Hughes as Caleb. And it starts off really dark, really gritty. It seemed like it was going to be a really strong crime thriller. And then it just fizzled out completely. And I don't mind that too much because that's not what I expected based on the description. But the beginning, the first, I don't know, let's say 10 minutes, I didn't time it, but the intro, the first couple of chapters are just completely different in tone to the rest of the film. And if you enjoy the beginning, just don't expect the rest of the film to be like that, because it isn't. It's like they tried really hard to have this shocking, gripping intro, and then the rest of it just fell apart. But the rest of it is what I was interested in, because it's about a man, Jacob, who thinks that he should be raising his son, Caleb, with the English. He wants to leave behind his Amish life, and he wants to experience the rest of what the world has to offer. But his wife doesn't want that. His wife believes they don't need that. But her husband takes their son away, and the film is about her trying to get her son back. And as a concept, I thought it sounded really, really interesting. And it wouldn't surprise me that this is something that some Amish people might face. It wouldn't be completely unrealistic for one person in a married couple in an Amish community to decide that actually they want to break free, or at least experience the world outside of the Amish community. And then, of course, if you're in a couple, you can't just break free and not have consequences if there are children involved. So I thought as a concept it sounded really interesting. But nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens for the bulk of the film. There are moments when they tried hard to make it dramatic, or when they tried to tug at the heartstrings and make it emotional, and it was just appalling. It is so terribly written. There is no substance. I don't believe the character's actions for a lot of it. I feel like it was very, very slow. I don't think Annie moved as quickly as she should have done, and I don't think it worked very well at all. I didn't notice anything obvious with regards to inaccuracies within the Amish community, but that's not to say there aren't any. I was just getting more annoyed about how boring it was. They had this amazing concept, and it's so terribly written. As I said, the beginning makes it seem really dramatic and suspenseful, and then after 10 minutes, it just kind of falls flat and nothing happens for the rest of the film. And every now and then, something seemingly dramatic will happen, I guess to pick it up a little bit, but nothing ever comes of anything. And it's not even that it's all suspense with no payoff. There's not really any suspense either. Great concept, horrendously executed, very, very badly written. I don't believe the characters were well written either, so terribly handled narrative, but also very poorly written characters. I guess if I had to pick a character who was the most believable, I'd say Jacob, maybe. He's basically the only character I had any kind of emotional response to, by which I mean, yeah, I didn't like him. I didn't agree with his actions. I didn't trust him. So I did have a response to that character, but everybody else was just horrendously written. No issues with the performances. The performances are good. The camera work is good. We have some really nice lighting and some nice atmosphere and moody scenes. And yeah, the lighting was actually quite good, particularly for the outdoor scenes. They picked the right times to film, so that worked well. But in terms of the story, it's horrendous. The characters, for the most part, are just ridiculous and unrealistic. The performances are fine. The camera work's fine. Nice location. I'm not sure where it's filmed, but IMDb says that it's filmed in the same location as When Calls the Heart, if that means anything to anybody. I've seen a little of When Calls the Heart, but not too much. But yeah, the location looked quite nice. The outdoor scenes were very well lit, and we have quite bright scenes in the city, and then the scenes in the Amish community seem a little bit gloomier, which I guess they're trying to create a little bit more atmosphere with, and that worked quite well. But the story and the characters are terrible. So Amish Abduction is not a good film. Great idea. And if they ever decide to remake this, absolutely, I would want to be the first person to watch it, because I love the concept. I hate the execution. Amish Abduction is not a good film. And unless, like me, you really like films about the Amish and you just want to see what it's like, I absolutely do not recommend it. There are many, many more and indeed better films about Amish life with much more interesting stories, much more believable characters. And I'd say even the films where there are some inaccuracies, as long as you're aware of the inaccuracies, they're a more enjoyable experience than this. Amish Abduction had a lot of potential, and unfortunately, it did not deliver.